Welcome everyone that's in here so far. Hoping to have a nice little discussion with our speaker. I think it's going to be a good one. So yeah, I guess it's a good time to start now. So yeah, welcome everyone to our next installment in our speaker series. Today we have a CPP alumni that currently works at Cisco. So without further ado, I'll let you introduce yourself, Kenneth.
Yeah, thanks, Gaten, for having me. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. I hope you guys are all doing well. This will be sort of a mix of kind of what my career has been as of now, as in addition to where it currently is. We're also talking about Cisco, which is where I'm currently at right now, in case you guys would like to learn more. And I hope that you guys get at least a little bit of value from this presentation. And feel free to let me know if you guys have any questions or just stop me at any time, and I can kind of dive deeper. And I'll be checking the chat, and you can always just speak out whenever. And that way, we can clarify things, but also, learn together. All right, let me pull up this presentation. Cool. All right. Cool. So like I said before, my name is Kenneth Matthew Velarde, and I'm a software engineer at Cisco. I'll be, like I said, briefly talking about my experience in the industry up till now. Cisco as a company, what they do, as well as what I do there. But before that, a little bit about who I am. Like I just said, I'm currently a software engineer at Cisco, which is currently located, and where the office I work at is currently located in San Jose, California. But due to the pandemic and everything, just like you guys, I am not there. I'm at here in my childhood bedroom, kind of just working from home. And previously before that, I was a software engineer intern at IBM on the Open Liberty team. Before that, I was on the technical support engineer team, also at IBM. A little bit of weird transition there. I came in as a technical support engineer, and after having a talk with my manager, telling him that I wanted to do more development, had me talking with another team, kind of aligned with the team I was on before. And I talked to them, interviewed with them in the middle of the summer, and I was able to do an internship, a second internship that was sort of extended. So the technical support engineer internship went from May 2019 to June, and from late June to December 2019, I was able to work as a software engineer intern. From June to August, I worked in the office in Austin, Texas. And for the rest of the year, I was working remotely while also going to school. It was kind of funny. For a while, I was carrying 2 laptops, so I felt pretty powerful, just like working on like a networking assignment and then closing it and then opening it up and working it like at a internship, which is pretty cool. I graduated from Cal Poly only last year, so I got my diploma in via email, which is kind of fun, but still a fairly new graduate, so not in a position very far from you guys. So I hope that you guys can hopefully know that. Hopefully you guys can kind of relate to the experience that I've had as of now. Some of the pictures on the left, was my first day at IBM. So I dressed up really nice, and we ended up just playing with Legos. It was a great time. And it's kind of related to some of the hobbies and fun facts about myself. So I'm a Hufflepuff, avid Harry Potter and Disney fan. I love watching movies, playing video games. Also, like if you guys look in the bottom left here, that Cisco sign, that's as close as I've ever gotten to the actual office where I work at. I haven't been in the office as of yet. So That's pretty fun. I love music, going to concerts, musicals, things like that. And I love spending too much money on food. Uh, like this like bowl of ramen in the bottom was like $20, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's like 2 hours at my minimum wage job. Like I can't believe I bought this, but it was probably the greatest bowl of ramen I've ever had. Uh, but getting back on topic, that's one.
Sometimes you just have to experience. Sometimes you
Right?
just got to shell out sometimes, It can't hurt
Yeah,
just for a one-time experience.
exactly.
Yeah,
Like I
I
had all this
understand.
IBM money. No, I'm just kidding. uh, no, but getting back to the main focus, what does Cisco do? Now, I had created this whole slide, and it's kind of a lot, but essentially, the TLDR is that Cisco is in the business of networking and connecting people through their products. So their products are, uh, phones, servers, switches, routers, kind of things you don't normally see day to day. They're not the most exciting company when it comes to the products they provide, but they are the backbone and they are the foundation of the internet. You know, they work at companies like Verizon, AT&T, uh, a lot of other companies that that are involved with connecting people through their products. So your iPhone is able to have a 5G connection because of Cisco networking products behind the scenes. And if you guys watch CNN, I don't really watch the news that much, but my parents uh, pointed this out. Like, every time they do like a discussion or panel, they have a little VS Cisco WebEx branding in the corner, which I think is kind of cute, kind of fun. Okay, now kind of relating to what I do at Cisco and transitioning towards that. Uh, these products for computer networking are very hardware focused. In order to have those products, someone has to create those products, someone has to source the materials. And that's kind of the area that I focus in and the team that I'm on focuses in. Cisco supply chain is probably one of the top supply chains in the world in terms of efficiency, environmental impact, uh, and just overall quality. So, and they take the whole thing from creating the products and their development and the sourcing of the materials to actually making the products, checking their quality, and getting it to their partners and their customers on time. Now, what I do at Cisco, a lot of that computer networking stuff is uh, more focused on the hardware, right? But I'm a software engineer at Cisco. I I focus on business applications internally. So I work on the UX side as well as front end development. So uh, without without going too deep into it, I basically take the data from products that Cisco creates, and that data is transferred to us and given to us by the customers. And it's my job to create these dashboards and these reporting tools so that the business side is able to actually read it and understand it. Um, in doing that, basically, the business side is able to supply the network health of our customers and in a cycle, essentially update them on how their network is doing, if they need to update or upgrade their system, and if they do, the Cisco products that provide that. Hence the cycle of here's your network, the health of it. So like it checks, security, how many versions of software are on the actual network itself, and kind of how that relates to uh, how secure your network is on your campus. And they get that data and are able to present that data through the products and the applications that I work on. But the main one of the interesting parts, I guess, for you guys would probably be how I got there. Not the most exciting, I guess, process, but still a little bit tense. Even before the first interview, I applied around mid-October 2019. I was on top of the world. I was like, yeah, I got IBM. I can go anywhere. I could I can climb up from here. But really, it's a little bit different than that. It's not, like if you get to, it's not like, oh, I'm identify with the company. It's more like, what is my skill? How am I? How is my like? What is my capacity for for growth? And I'm sure that if many of you guys have probably gone through this, but I had a lot of trouble during application season where, you know, it was hard enough to get interviews, but doing the interviews themselves was also another hurdle to climb over. So I applied to Cisco mid-October and didn't get any notification or interview until November. So about a month had passed, and it was just a standard interview, kind of just asking who I was, what I knew about Cisco, and the company itself. Nothing very technical, hardly any at all. Just kind of wanting to know who I was as a person, but not exactly a cultural fit. Just kind of checking who, just like a first check. But moving to the next step, uh, it took them a while to get back to me after the interview, and I felt like it went really well. I was, the business analyst I was interviewing with, we were laughing, we were talking. It was a good time, and I thought I'd nailed it. But after that interview, they hadn't contacted me for maybe 3-4 months before till then. But after they contacted me, it was really fast right after that. It was literally the end of February. They contacted me for an hour-long interview. I was ready for a technical. I was on Lead Code. Yes, I was reading, cracking the code, everything. What are the all sorts of things, just like anything and everything. And I get to the interview, and the guy's like, "Hey, you know about the new Call of Duty?" I'm like, "What are you? What? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, uh, I've been playing with my son. It's great." And we ended up just like talking about just random stuff over the course of an hour. And there was some technical in it, but it wasn't a technical interview like you'd imagine it. I'm not up on a whiteboard writing down code line after line. Uh, it was more of a discussion. Yes, I talked about what I did and what I've done, past projects, uh, my time at school and the academic work I did there, and kind of what I was learning. But this was the real cultural fit. I was talking with who would inevitably be my manager, and for him, it wasn't about my technical prowess or my technical skill. It was more about my capability for growth. You know, no one can know all of the, how to implement every single thing in every single language all the time. It's just growing too fast. Things are moving too fast. Uh, you know, JavaScript might be the thing today, but it might be gone tomorrow, right? And that was kind of what he was trying to get at. Uh, if you're willing to have the attitude to learn, then your altitude to grow is through the roof. Like you can go anywhere because uh, honestly, if you do it for the money, it's not worth it because money is everywhere. But your skill and who you are as a developer to grow and to understand uh, is like the foundation for basically your entire career. Um, but after that interview, I felt like it was really good, and a week later, I got the offer, and it was a grand old time. But if you guys remember, March last year, uh, not a grand old time.
Not at
So,
all. Not at
no.
all. We all
So
remember it. At least the people that, were on campus.
yeah,
But yeah.
so I got the offer letter, and I was like, yeah, yeah, let's go out. And then I remembered I couldn't go out, so uh, that was kind of fun. But um, I guess I guess how would I describe this? Um, I know hiring season is scary and excruciating, especially when it feels like you're just banging your head against the wall. A never ending tunnel is something you might be going down. Uh, but I promise that like it will end and you will get a position and you will be okay as long as you just keep putting the work in, because the most important thing is showing that you're able to grow. Because if they feel like you have this attitude to just, and that you peaked in your technical prowess in college, like where will you be in a year? Like you'll still be at the same place because you'll feel like you're already at the top. But if you're willing to show them that you're able to grow and that you want to grow and you want to grow with them, uh, that mindset will get you farther than you think. The reason I joined Cisco is, I believe in their mission statement, in connecting the world through their products. And I also believed it was a great place for me to grow, start off my career. It was a large company, established. There were people there, there were resources there for me to grow. And I feel like I've been there about 8 or 9 months now, and I've grown farther and more than I have probably in the 4 years I did at college. So it just goes to show just how far you can come if you choose the right place to where you want to be. And one note when you're interviewing, and it might be too late for this, but it might not, because some of you might still be interviewing. Just know that as much as they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them, right? They want to know who you are as a person, but you want to be looking at them and thinking, if this is someone I'll be working with every day, talking to every day, this has to be someone who I like being around. Like you can't just be like, oh, I hate this guy, like, and then be like, yeah, give me the offer. It just doesn't work like that. Like it's a two-way street. So just know that, they want you to succeed and they want you to be happy as much as they want you to join their team. Other than that, I think that's all I had for my presentation. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. But thank you guys, and I appreciate the time you guys have taken coming out.
Yes, and thank you very much, Kenneth. Like I felt like I've gotten a lot of insight. I'm not even the most experienced in the whole like interviewing process, so I'm actually trying to just like understand like where you're coming from, and I do like a lot of the key points that you touched on, like how the interviewing process, it may seem a little intimidating to many newcomers, but in a way you did say that it's like as they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them. Like at the end of the day, you got to realize that you have to, really analyze if, that company that's interviewing you, if, you put yourself in that company's shoes, would you fit in that company? That
Yeah.
sort of idea. So yeah, I do appreciate a lot of the key points that you touched on. So yeah, we are getting a couple of questions from the chat. Tuan asked, so what if he's graduating and it's his first job? Will he have the power to negotiate with who he will be working with?
Ooh. Yeah, actually, this kind of works out because at Cisco, like I said before, the person you're interviewing with is most likely the person who you're going to be working with, especially when it comes to the manager. But sometimes it's not always that way. The manager I interviewed with, he ended up being my first manager. But after a few months, maybe 3 or 4 months, organization shifts happen internally at some companies, and teams move around. And I ended up having to change managers around. I started in July. I ended up changing managers around September, so I wasn't on that team for very long. And one thing that I would note is that going to the company, it might be intimidating to think you have no power, that you have no say in where you're going, but it's actually the opposite. Your manager should be sort of the catalyst, I suppose, for your career. You're the one who's guiding your career. You're at the wheel, and it's their job essentially to make sure that you get where you want to be. When I joined Cisco, I didn't know where I wanted to go. Like I just knew I liked HTML, CSS, JavaScript, front end stuff, and I thought that was really fun and interesting. And I told my manager, "This is what I want to do. This is where I want to go." And he helped me align the projects I was on with that. So essentially, don't feel like you're you have no power because it's really you at the wheel, and you're in charge of the direction your career path goes. You just have to be open with the people who want to help you.
Yeah, I think that's like that's sort of how I think it should be, you know, because like you are working for the company, right? And like you're trying to like you're essentially trying to create the backbone of that company. So well, you know, in collaboration with other developers. But I
Mhm.
think, yeah, that's a very important question that Tuan brought up about, you know, if like if developers have say in their position in their company, because you don't want to just be in a company and, you know, literally just taking orders, but you're not really, you
Yeah,
feel like you're not getting your end of the bargain sort of thing. You know? So I
yeah,
think, yeah, very, very important. I think Max also, yeah, this is another good question. This is probably what I was going to ask you later, but he jumped the gun on this one. He asked, what front end framework do you use at Cisco?
yeah. Even before that, fun fact, a lot of like, I'm not sure how long most of you guys have been at CPP, but there isn't really much of like a web dev front and like web application front. A lot of the academic work you guys do is in Java or C++ or something object oriented and back end focus. Uh, so a lot of the stuff that I learned on the front end is self taught and on my own. So at Cisco, when they asked me to use Angular, which is what we use for most of our projects, I had no idea. I straight up had no idea what Angular was. I was like, what is this? Like, I barely know JavaScript, you know, like help me out. And they're like, it's fine, it's fine. But we use Angular for the most part, uh, mostly due to the single SAP, the single application sort of framework that it retains. So basically, like it uses TypeScript or JavaScript to uh, make it so that every time you change, let's say, to a new page, you don't have to load a new page. It just uses JavaScript in the back to kind of just change the HTML on the front. And it's much quicker than a lot of the Java-based applications used uh, on legacy applications at Cisco. A lot of the applications at Cisco are fairly old, so a lot of the work that I focus on is upgrading that so that it's much more streamlined, and we use Angular.
Nice, nice. And I think you mentioning the when you mentioned Angular, and then you said that you had no idea. Like it's funny, but like it also shows like what the premise of like what you just the key point that you brought up in your presentation, that was the room to grow. You didn't know about
Yeah,
Angular, but yet you know you took the initiative and you took the steps of, you know, trying to learn Angular, and that's kind of the essence of, you know, CS in general. You as CS grows, as that field grows, you have to grow as well. I mean, it's pretty challenging, but, you know, trying to keep up with it, I think it has lots of benefits in the long run.
yeah,
So yeah, I think yeah, and Angular, yeah. See, I'm not even much of a front end developer either, so I'm gonna like if someone asks me about some front end framework, just gonna be like, but maybe I'll eventually learn. Hopefully I'll take the steps to learn it.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Johans asked, how do you network into another role or team?
Yeah, this is actually perfect because this is what I'm doing right now. Uh, on my presentation, I wrote front end developer and UX designer. That UX designer part is still a new part of my role. Uh, one thing that I think is important is when you network, especially when you're in a company, like there's no shame in essentially cold calling someone. You know, like if you just said like if it's something that they're interested in and that they work in, they'd love to talk about it. You know, like if one of you guys pinged me on LinkedIn was like, hey, I'd love to learn more about you know, front end development uh, and Angular. uh, I'd be like, sure, yeah, we can talk. And it's those people who are willing to share their knowledge, uh, who are, I feel like, people who want to grow and wants to, you know, help other people grow. Um, I guess when it, could you say the question one more time just so I can clarify?
Yeah. So he asked, how do you network into another role or team?
TLDR, basically message the people who are in the role that you want to be and talk to them, honestly. Uh, Even if you're just like in that whole conversation you mentioned, let's say you want to do, if you're a front end developer like myself who wants to go to back end and say, yeah, and I've always wanted to work in, uh, business logic on the back end, that can, spark a conversation, a whole other conversation. And maybe that one call will lead to three calls and multiple calls down the line and multiple check-ins. And maybe that person uh, has some small tasks needs help with on his project, or knows a project that you could join. But the first step is just going out and finding people who are in that role that you want to be in.
Yeah, it makes sense. Because even with me, I remember like I was interning last summer, and I was not sure what I was doing at this internship. I'm just like, who should I contact? What should I do? So then I just started, just messaging people. We use Microsoft Teams. I just started messaging people with the role, and yeah, it's surprising to see like how open people are in sharing knowledge and whatnot. Like, and that's
Yeah,
what I noticed about a lot of developers and just people in CS. Like, they just don't mind at all trying to, give a helping hand wherever it's needed because I don't know. I guess they just like to see other people grow, just like how they grew. So
yeah.
I guess that's
And
kind of
like
how it works.
if you can teach it, like if there's something and you could teach it, it means you really got the foundation down. And
Exactly.
I think that's like important and something that people want to improve upon. It's hard to teach someone if no one wants to learn. So
Right. Right.
don't be
Right.
afraid to reach out.
Yep. Definitely. So Pratt asked, how early do you recommend starting to apply for full-time positions?
It depends on uh if you want to start right after graduation, I'd say, at least a year in advance. Like if it's your junior year, uh and you want to graduate by next June, at the latest, start applying in July. Because I know a lot of companies late July will start looking to hire and start interviewing for around October. So then those people who apply, let's say July, will probably get offers by the end of the year. But if it's even now, there's nothing. Just because you don't get a position right out of college doesn't mean that you won't ever get one. If you start applying now, maybe you'll get a position by August or by this December. It's never too late. So it just your timeline. I would say at least a year in advance, but it always depends, truly.
Got it. So like, would you say that like each company in terms of like, getting back to the interviewee, like it varies, like it varies so much that you don't even like really have like a consolidated timeline of when they'll get back to you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like Cisco, I mean, it took them like 6, 7 months for the whole process, but IBM was literally like 3 weeks. So
Interesting.
like I applied in like January and I got it in March, and I was in Texas in May or June. Or no, it was May because I finished my last final on a Friday, and then the following Monday I was in Texas. And
Ah, okay.
so that was really fun. But it always just depends. Sorry, I can't
Got
give a
it.
more concrete answer on that, but that's just my
Yeah, I mean,
experience.
yeah, because I feel like that might be the case with companies. Like, I don't know, the timelines are just like just very different. They don't necessarily, and like they might approximate on the phone or just like whenever. Like you might even ask them during the process, like, when do you think like I'll hear back from you guys? And like
Yeah.
maybe they might not even know the answer.
It's definitely a good question to ask during the interview
Yeah,
process, if
yeah,
you've got that far.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So, Tuan asked another question. What
Yeah.
cultural actions does Cisco take that makes you feel inclusive, and especially like throughout these times?
Yeah, one of the things they do is that like they have these check-ins where it, I guess you could say the top brass, so like the CTO, the CEO, CCO, all of those C-level uh, employees have a check-in, and they have like a live Q&A with all their employees, and every check-in is just like thousands of employees, right? Like I think Cisco's like at 75,000 employees, and they just take questions from them on the spot. Like they don't prepare them in advance, and it's always very candid. Uh, like someone asked, are we ever going to go back to the office? And they were candid. They were just like, you know, we're still working on it. It might be a hybrid. Uh, see how people react to how things are moving forward, and see how uh, the world is essentially moving forward. Those check-ins are really cool, and it's sort of that culture that trickles down into specific teams. So like my manager will do a check-in every 2 weeks, and I have a one-on-one with him every week, just so that everyone is up to date with everything, with everyone, not just on our work, but how we are and how we're doing. Uh, it's the culture of just sharing and being aware that I think Cisco really promotes. That I think is really important, and I think is awesome.
Excellent. Yeah, I do think as times progress, obviously culture inclusivity is like it's major, it's big. People gotta feel like people don't want to feel like, they're outcasted in any way, shape, or form. So
Yeah.
as long as they sort of express that, they're not gonna show any prejudice in any way, like I mean, that's probably the best thing that we could ask for. I mean, other than like, raises probably, but that's all another story. But
Mhm.
yeah, very important. Uh, so now Ricky asked, do you have any offers that you considered, like since Cisco took so long and it's never a guarantee, how long should you wait?
Oh, they didn't get back to me for a month. I was just like, okay, bye. At the time, I was like straight up, forget it. This isn't happening. Uh, some other offers, I think I was playing around with three offers. Uh, there was Cisco, IBM, and then the potential offer from uh, aerospace industry, and that one ended up not panning out. And then IBM was offering me a position, but it was in New York, and I didn't want to work in New York. Uh,
The Big
I knew I
Apple,
wanted.
why not?
It
Big
was
Apple.
it was in New York, and it was in a position that I feel like there wasn't much. Uh, I didn't see myself growing into essentially. Uh, and then Cisco had the software engineer position, and it was in California, which I thought was ideal for me, and that's how it worked out. And these were all within like like these weren't all at once. So like Cisco, the second interview happened, and I was waiting, and then IBM and aerospace were there, and I was just holding on to them. Uh, and then Cisco happened, and then you know, luckily IBM and aerospace were willing to wait wait it out with me, even though I said no. Uh, but you know, uh, I those are the three offers I was sort of juggling.
Interesting. Yeah, it's weird when it comes to like offers because I feel like when you're applying to like so many companies, like obviously there's like a lot of room or lots of like opportunities. Well, when they get back to you to see like where you would want to go. But the way that I look at it, and I've never been through like the whole applying to many companies process, but I don't know why. To me, it kind of seems like as I remember, like applying for colleges, like
Mhm.
I applied to pretty much a lot of all the UCs, the two Cal Polys, and some privates, and it's like I wonder how people like juggle like the college offers. Like, is it the same as juggling their these CS job offers? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a pros cons. Pull out the yellow legal pad, just really look at it,
Mm-hmm.
like look at it all out. Uh,
Yeah.
it's a lot of it is just like, it comes down to what do you want,
Mhm.
it might be like some gigantic company, but it might not be a position you want. Like, is that, or it might be in a place that you don't want to be. Like, what if you got like Apple in, I don't know, like Ohio, it's like, I don't know.
Right.
I doubt Apple has an Ohio campus, but you know what I mean? Like, if it's not, if there's something like you really don't want to do and you're sacrificing it for the company, it's like,
Yeah.
you gotta find that balance between like what you want and like where you want to grow.
Yeah, definitely. And like when you mentioned, even when you turned down like, or when you said that, the company in New York, or yeah, and you didn't want to go out there, like, that's like probably a big factor to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Location is like a big variable to a lot of people. And, just because it might have a big name to it doesn't mean it's necessarily the place for you. I mean, ultimately it's up for you to weigh, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like if you got an offer in a place, like it might be different for people for sure. Like for me, like not even for me, but like, what if it's, if you had a position in a place where they gave you a high salary, but it wasn't where you wanted to be, like what you're saying is that if you're doing it just for the salary, that like, your well-being costs that much. And I feel like that's like
Exactly.
something to consider, not just salary, but like location and all these other factors. Uh, you know, team, position, salary, location. All, I don't know. I can't list all of them.
Yeah.
And it's also just the feeling, San Jose.
Mhm.
It's near San Fran. I thought it'd be really cool. And I love California. And I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of like the whole process. You just do like a little cost benefit analysis of each offer, and then you see what's the best for you.
Exactly.
All right, so yeah, Tuan asked another question. I think this is actually a question I was going to ask as well, but he said, "Does getting involved in clubs help in terms of like getting interviews or job offers?"
Early in your career, I definitely say yes. Uh, and it's building those uh, networks, but also building those skills. You know, like I was in CSS last year, and now I'm able to speak at CSS. But if I'd never joined, I probably wouldn't have met the people who would have connected me or connected us uh, to this very place. Uh, but when it comes to like resume and like actually interviewing and showing off, uh, you know, these organizations, I definitely say it's a bonus. It's definitely not the main focus, but if you're able to show that you went out and you were proactive on your campus, and I think it'll help a lot, especially because you guys are doing it during a pandemic. Uh, that's something you can really show off, because it only makes it that much harder to like gather people together. Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
so yeah, I definitely say it's an important factor, and it's something you could bring up during an interview. You have leadership skills, you have soft skills, in addition to the technical skills that you have.
Yeah, definitely. And with only 2 years at Cal Poly, at least from my personal experience, I could definitely say like I don't know these classes or like the major core classes and even the electives like they teach you the technical skills and like you'll most likely you're going to gain those technical skills. There's probably no doubt about that. But it's the pretty much everything outside of just learning the technical skills that I feel like people that are wanting to pursue the industry have to be aware about, such as the interview process, which is why I'm glad that you went over that, because I feel like if someone really wasn't too involved in the campus or like on clubs or someone that was just taking classes but not really doing their research, they might get blindsided like, oh wait, I thought I was just gonna get a job after I got my degree.
Yeah,
Well, there's things you got to do outside of that, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, but that's just how it is.
yeah,
So
definitely. Like,
yeah,
uh, you know, finding who you are and finding yourself and really exploring uh, things outside of the technical realm is important because like one thing I've heard, I haven't experienced this hands on yet, but it's very easy to be like a direction follower. When you're on your projects, it's easy to just you know get the user stories or the requirements and then just fill them out. But to really go out of your way and like understand it, but also like maybe even take it a step further and realize oh, maybe it could be done this way instead, and really just like reach out beyond just following instructions is very crucial to just like, I guess, being different than everyone else and being noticed for more than just a software engineer. The people who are higher up, who are like technical leaders, they know the technical skills, they have the technical skills, but they're also able to convince you about, convince you and speak about them essentially. So just taking those other skills a step further is very important.
Yeah, like every single step you take, I think is very like exemplary of like, where you might end up. So yeah, I definitely see that. So yeah, Tuan asked another question. So what's your plan now that you've got your first job?
Oh yeah, just kicking it. No. Right now it is just growing, like I said before, at CPP there wasn't really much of a I enjoyed doing web development, but there really wasn't much of a web development front at CPP. So I'm still growing my skills in that end and really trying to build a solid foundation for like these front end frameworks like Angular, React, Vue. Really just trying to hone my skills because I feel like, as someone who hasn't been here as long as many of the other people on my team, there's definitely that gap where I know there's a lot for me to learn and there's a lot for me to grow into. The potential is still there, and it is like this field of CS, it's always moving, always ever changing. So you just have to learn to keep up and be quick. I guess in short, studying.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like the story of like probably a lot of our lives now, or everyone that's still in Cal Poly, that's going to be our lives for like the next couple years, depending on whenever we're graduating. But yeah, so yeah, I kind of have a question for you, like just for me. So obviously you are a CPP alumni and you were in CSS. What sort of like resources or like what did you consult to kind of like prepare yourself for the industry, like on campus resources and whatnot?
Yeah. One of them would be, CSS for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Having these speaker series is a really good opportunity to, kind of figure it out and get your feet wet secondhand about what it's like working hands-on or hearing about people's experience in the industry itself. Resources, especially when it comes to hiring. I'm not sure if you guys are able to do this still, but like the what do you call it? The career.
The career center.
Yeah, the career center.
Yeah. Okay.
I would go there a lot to review my resume because as someone in our field who's very, not someone like myself, but like all of us, a lot of the stuff we do is very technical. It might be beyond the scope of like, most people in terms of like understanding the jargon and all the technical details. The thing with the career center is that a lot of them aren't, very technical, which is really interesting because you'll be able to take your resume there and kind of hone it in a way that other recruiters might actually look at it, because a lot of the recruiters might be in HR, right? And those people might not be the most technical. So being able to take your resume to someone before that who isn't very technical is a great way for you to like define the scope of your resume and also design it in a way where it might be easier for a recruiter to actually understand before even putting it out there. That was probably like the most important thing, just because like, you could write C++, but people might be like, why are you adding two letters together or something? It's like being able to like explain and like really help others understand your resume is important. There's a bunch of other organizations as well. I think SEA is still up and going.
Yep.
That one's really good. She codes. I went to a lot of she code meetings, like just because in addition to CSS and SEA, you have to get the whole picture, right? and just going to like one club, it might be one focus, but other clubs might have other focuses. uh, I feel like these resources will help expand your horizons and really help you understand uh, every point in the CS field as far as you can get at CPP.
Yeah, so I mean, you guys heard it. He pretty much listed the clubs on campus, as well as the Career Center workshop or the Career Center. We've actually done like a workshop with him last
Mhm.
semester, so we actually have a video of that on our YouTube channel, so you guys can check that out whenever. But yeah, I think that's important. I haven't actually consulted to the Career Center yet, but I have been revamping my resume, and I was most likely going to take it to I think his name was Ed in the Career Center. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think I'll definitely consult with him. So yeah, I guess another question I wanted to ask, kind of before we end off within the last 10 minutes, is obviously with the epidemic, we've been at home, and with you, you said that with everything you didn't even enter the office yet.
Mhm.
So how has like the process of working at home been for you? Has it been like difficult, or has it been like manageable?
Initially, it was very difficult. Being this is my bedroom. I sleep 2 feet from me, and then I also play video games 2 feet from me.
Yes.
Uh, so, uh, it's hard to be in a place for, let's say 8 hours a day, focusing on work, and then trying to relax in the same place. Uh, it might seem very easy at first, but like it starts to like be something that you pick up, and it gets to a point where you feel like you're just spending your whole day in one place. Uh, I'd say as time has progressed, it's gotten a bit more manageable in the sense that I've been able to find my balance, find that balance in that, maybe I'll spend 4 hours in here and I could pick up my laptop and work in a different room or just go somewhere else. Uh, I think when it comes to the work, it's more of a balance of finding that work life balance more than uh, if the work is difficult, because the work will always be there, but being in the mindset to work, I feel like is a little bit more difficult to handle. Uh, I definitely tried to like make it more of a workspace. Like I got an actual desk. I have one of those desks where like it's able to like stand up and raise.
Oh,
So I'm
I'm
not always
jealous.
sitting. Just so I'm not
I
always
actually
sitting
wanted one of
down.
those.
Maybe
Yeah, that's
Costco.
good. Oh,
Uh,
okay, nice, nice.
uh, I I feel like a lot of it is just like I said, that mindset to work uh, is something you have to balance, and I feel like that balance comes with just like trying to figure out your own limits. Uh, I know that after 2 hours, I might be like, I can't be looking at a screen right now,
Yeah.
But for some people, it's just like, dude, what the heck? I'm 16 hours in, like how can you only do 2 hours? Like, so just find that balance. I think I've found a solid balance in taking breaks and finding like working and being able to be in the same place where I work all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I think you did mention the difficult part, and that was finding the balance. Like a lot of people say, like there is no balance, or like I don't have a balance, and I get that because at times I feel like I don't have a balance either. But at least I try to like I can't just be living like a zombie, and during this pandemic I gotta like actually try to create that routine, and also like it's like you said, find that balance. And I think with that, like it just helps with the process, because then I feel like you don't always get overwhelmed, and when that like
Yeah,
you feel like you've accomplished what you needed to do, like daily goals or weekly goals, and you're able to be sane.
yeah. Like,
Yeah,
you're not always going to be working 8 hours a day, right? If you're in the office, you're not going to be coding for 8 hours nonstop. You'll
yeah.
take breaks. So uh, take many breaks. Truly, like if you took 4 breaks, take 8 breaks. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, taking breaks I think is essential. I always take breaks. Like I finish like a function or two, then I go get something to eat.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
Yeah. And I guess like, yeah, I guess this can be the last question before we end it off is, with interview process, I've seen a couple of these like practice for interviews, but uh, do you do like leak code or just like, practice software engineering questions when like you were applying for your job?
Oh, definitely. Leak code
Yeah.
every day. I still have it bookmarked. Uh, but leak code is definitely important. Uh, the theory of like this, the CS theory is very important, especially when you're applying for a specific position. Like if you're like applying for a team, is going to be like focused in networking. Maybe, what you learned in your networking class will probably apply more to you and focus in that. Uh, but for most new hire positions, which is probably what most of you guys will be applying for, uh, those object-oriented programming principles are like very important and understanding like uh, you know how to create the most uh, like efficient function and like just like really understanding like O of n and all of that is like
Uh,
sadly the truth is like it's pretty important, but if you're able to, if you might not understand that as much, being able to have even projects and understanding how to explain them, uh, and like what they do and how they do it is probably more important than any amount of lead code you do. So if you create an application that's like, yeah, this is just a basic calculator, but you're able to like explain this calculator to like the most granular degree, that is more impressive than saying, yeah, the, I know how to implement that sort. Watch this. It's like the application is more important than the theory, but knowing the theory is still something you have to know.
Yeah, I feel like, for me trying to learn theory of anything, I just sometimes, it might make me want to hit my head against the wall. I'm definitely exaggerating, but
No.
yeah, leak code, yeah, I've always heard about it. I think I even tried a couple of questions. But yeah, for anyone that's, going into the interview process or hasn't even done it, from what I've heard, like it's definitely helpful. Obviously from what he said, it's helpful as well. So that should be like a something that should be done. I don't know. Like when I did it, like I usually did it throughout like my summer breaks or just like whenever, just so that
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not really regressing in my I guess my CS intelligence. Like I don't want to act like I'm losing anything. So that's kind of like when I look into problems like that. But
Yeah, it's sort of like uh, it's basically just as like you do it to just hone and really like hammer down those concepts because you can memorize the theory, but then being able to apply it even through leak code is kind of why leak code exists. It's not just like, oh, let me do these leak code problems so I can memorize it. It's more like,
yeah,
oh, I learned about this function. Let me do a problem on leak code that's kind of similar to it so I really understand it. So I'm able to like get my hands dirty.
yeah, exactly. And that's what I feel like leak code does. It keeps it keeps you on your toes about like a lot of these concepts. And when you're always kept on your toes, it feels like it's almost ingrained in you. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
But yes,
nice.
thank you guys for listening to me ramble and talk for the past 50 minutes. Real quick, thank you guys. You guys will be able to add me on LinkedIn if you'd like. Uh, I'm always open to talk about anything and everything related to the industry, or if you just want to talk with someone uh, about anything, uh, I'm open to any conversation. I'd be happy to discuss.
Nice, cool. Yeah, and thank you very much for coming out. Appreciate it. You did provide a lot of insight, and that's what we always appreciate at the speaker series. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Cathan. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you everyone.